Hi, YouTube. Good morning. Good morning, world. Good morning, universe. Good morning. Welcome to my book club where I will read every morning from 7 to 8. And I'll be live here on TikTok for 2 hours. So stick around. Stick around. We're reading this book, The Child I Left Behind by Anjalia McGoldrick. And so far, we are on chapter 18. I started this last Monday for the fall equinox because fall started last Monday. So I'm like, this is a good time for me to start the book club that I've been wanting to start. And so this is the second week of it. And we've gotten through more than half of this book in just 1 hour each morning reading with you all. So delighted to be able to do this for everyone, for the universe. It's just my offering, my service that I like to offer out there, if that makes any sense. Something I take great joy in doing. So let's begin with chapter 18. Trigger warning, there is strong language and strong words. Strong language, strong words, and violence. But I think we've gotten through most of the violent parts of the story. So let us begin. Chapter 18, The Child I Left Behind. I stood in the courtroom, dressed uncomfortably in a navy blue skirt and a plain light blue blouse with buttons-ups and ruffles on the sleeves. Then I picked up at Goodwill, along with a used pair of navy blue high heels shoes that were half size too big. My attorney recommended I show up in court looking nice for the judge. Charlie walked in wearing blue jeans and a collared shirt tucked in his pants. Good morning. And a new pair of shoes I am sure his mother bought him. He and Dottie slid onto the bench across the aisle on the opposite side of the courtroom. Charlie gazed down at the floor, avoiding eye contact with me. His attorney went to the table at the front of the courtroom and chatted with my attorney. My palms were sweaty and shaky, and I was wrestling with my nerves as the bailiff announced promptly at 9 a.m. All rise. When the judge entered the room, I was feeling hopeful but uncertain. Although my attorney assured me in most cases the judge sides with the mother, and he felt sure I would win the case, it was still intimidating and scary. Our case was called first, and my attorney walked confidently toward the center of the courtroom and approached the judge to present my case. Charlie's attorney argued that Leah was in a more stable environment with Charlie and should remain in custody of Charlie and his mother, Dottie, who was a retired and had plenty of time to tend to the needs of the minor child. My heart sank. Hearing these words, I hung on to every word that was said like my life depended on it, because at least as far as my heart was concerned, it did. When it was all over, the judge ordered Leah to be returned to me that afternoon by 3 p.m. at my mother's house in Taylor. He gave me full custody and ordered every weekend visitation for Charlie. A smile came across my face and joy leaped in my heart. I hugged Mom, then my attorney, and looked over at Charlie, whose eyes were piercing me. I knew that look. I finally won an argument and he didn't like it. The victory landed hard for him and well for me, and I could not wait to see Leah, who had been kept from me for nearly 3 weeks. Later that afternoon, Charlie pulled up and got Leah out of the car. She ran with her arms wide open and jumped into mine, nearly knocking me down. Her arms squeezed around my neck, nearly choking me while hugging me with all her might. We loved each other so much, and it seemed to make Charlie so mad to see how happy Leah was to see me. I thought it is really sad that Charlie wouldn't be happy to see Leah so happy. But I knew Charlie. It was about to being right, being the most important and winning. And for him, this was none of this. Mommy, I missed you. Why didn't you come get me? Oh, honey, I have been trying ever since I left. And finally, today, I was able to come back. I missed you so much. Why didn't you get me? Oh, honey, I've been trying ever since I left. I was able to get back to you. My arms held her tiny body close to my chest as I ran my fingers through her curly hair, kissing her soft face, watching over her shoulder while Charlie glared at me and snarled with disgust, then climbed into his car. I knew this was far from over. He wouldn't let me win this easily. I pulled Leah close to me, enjoying the smell of her sweet skin as I watched him drive away. I felt sad, compassion, even love for him. Not the kind of love where I wanted him back, but love for what I hoped could have been. Loving thoughts, though he nearly killed me 3 weeks earlier. Mom and Ben agreed to let us stay with them for the next week until our room was ready at the teen parent home, and I was grateful. I try to stay out of the way and not make any fuss or disrupt their lives in any way. I was humbled and trying to comprehend everything that was happening so quickly and chaotically in my life. I just wanted peace and not to fight so hard to just be myself. I was exhausted from this hell and feeling uncertain about the future. The past year had been a nightmare and I was ready to move on. Even though I missed Leah so much, the past 3 weeks had been a relief. I didn't have Charlie on my back, and I wasn't constantly walking on eggshells trying to please him. I didn't have the never ending responsibility of a small toddler every day to tend to, or the pressure of life that was hard when you're poor, alone, and not having much support or anyone who could even remotely understand what I was going through. I left all my friends and a different life behind when I decided to get pregnant and quit school at 13. I was a teenager who became an adult instantly when this baby was born, and my life had never been the same. I looked around at my mother's living room, at the pictures of my older sister Jenny at her prom hanging proudly next to her graduation picture. I felt a sting of life I missed out on. Even Ben would remind me of how screwed up my life and that boys my age weren't interested in me. There aren't any teenage boys out there who want to be with a settled down girl with a baby. And if they were interested in you, it's only for one thing, he'd say in a condescending way. That's fucking rude. Good morning. Thank you for joining. I felt like life was over and I would be alone, like Charlie said. No one is ever going to want you. What is going to become of me? I thought about the poverty I had lived in through after my parents' divorce and all the hell that I had endured. I thought about the blocks and blocks of rundown houses in Detroit with single mothers on welfare, waiting around with more month than money, waiting for a welfare check and food stamps. I didn't want to end up stuck there. It was a hard place to get out of. I was proud of my mother for working so hard and teaching me the values of strong work ethic. She always worked, and even though she didn't make much on her waitress pay, Without any child support, she did the best she could to make ends meet with what she made. She taught me a lot during those difficult times when we were hungry and didn't have much to eat. She could stretch $1 and a meal to keep us fed enough to get by. Although there were times when we were hungry and didn't have much, we always knew she was doing her best. She learned from her own upbringing and being poor the value of hard work and $1. But I didn't want that for my life. I wanted more, but I wasn't sure how it was possible for me. I lay awake thinking about the events of the day and feeling relieved to have won the case and to have my baby back. I cradled Leah, who was snuggled up next to me, sleeping in my arms in a small twin bed that belonged to my younger brother Jake, who agreed to sleep on the couch again so we can stay in his room. I was exhausted but couldn't sleep. My thoughts drifted back in time. I reflected on my life and the decisions my parents had made. What would my life be like if mom had never left daddy? Or daddy would have taken us back when mom asked? Or we were still in Cincinnati? I had such a good life back then. I certainly wouldn't be in the situation I am in now. Things would be much better. That concludes chapter 18. That was a short chapter. Cheers if you're drinking coffee right now. It's so good. So good. Good morning. Another sip of coffee. Okay. We're going to begin chapter 19, The Child I Left Behind. I couldn't move back in with Mom and Ben. They made that very clear. Mom agreed to sign the papers to emancipate me, and even though I didn't want to move into the group home, I didn't have any money or any options. Being emancipated meant that at 16 years old, I was legally an adult and responsible for myself. Something I had really been since my parents divorced at age 9. The reality of it all set in as I watched my mom sign the papers. I reflected on growing up so quickly and being left alone in the world of vultures who were ready to pounce on me and take advantage of my innocence without any protection. I reflected for a moment on the loss of my childhood and how it was abruptly stripped away so quickly before I was ready or prepared. Tears welled up, and quickly I wiped them away. I turned my thoughts to gratitude for being accepted into the teen parent home and to have a safe place to stay. But I was apprehensive and unsure. I was exhausted, overwhelmed, and had been through a whirlwind of hell. I hadn't had time to even process or comprehend it all. And here I was, moving again. Being at the teen parent home took some time for me to adjust. I was 16 years old, in the ninth grade, with a 2.5-year-old child and an ex-boyfriend I was still dealing with who made my life crazy. I was the younger girl in the house, and unlike them, I had a job, a car, and had lived on my own as an adult with my boyfriend for the past 2 years. Although we had things in common, most times I felt out of place. I was used to having my own place and doing things on my own way. Even under the heavy weight of Charlie, I still did most things day to day on my own schedule. We had our own room with a twin bed, a crib, and a counter with a chair and a mirror to use as a vanity, and a desk and a small closet and window. It was cozy, and I appreciated having a place to retreat when the heaviness of being with so many others became too much. I moved in at the end of the school year and looked forward to the summer off to get settled in before school began again in the fall. There were a lot of rules at the house, chores to do, meals to help prepare, cleanup duties, and activities to participate in, including house meetings. These took priority. You couldn't leave the house until everything was taken care of. We also helped each other with childcare when needed. I hoped this would be the right place for me to get on track and head in a better direction. At first, it felt good to be around people who were going through some of the same struggles I was and to have some support. They did a lot to create a family atmosphere and to help us learn life skills. They provided grandmother age volunteers who came in each day to help care for our children while we did our chores, homework, and took some time to ourselves or engaged in activities in the program. It was the most support I have gotten since Leia was born. They encouraged me to quit my job so that I can focus on myself, and I complied. But it wasn't long before I struggled, wanting, waiting on a check and having a lot of month left and no money. I hated being broke and feeling dependent on someone else for my day to day expenses. So within a couple of months, I went back to waitressing at night on the weekends, and my Aunt Sissy took care of Leah when she wasn't with Charlie or Dottie. Charlie's every weekend visitation with Leah began after I moved in. And almost every time I took her to drop her off and pick her up, he would bully me and start a fight. It didn't take anything to take him off. And he would jerk my hood open and pull the distributor wires from the distributor cap, punch or kick my car, or do something to create chaos and hell, leaving me a mess and Leia crying. On the weekends, and Charlie had Leia. I felt relieved to have some time for myself. I never got to be a teenager, and I enjoyed just feeling the freedom of not having someone needing me every moment of every day. It helped me feel a little bit more normal. By the end of the summer, things at the teen parent home grew more uncomfortable. Six teenage mothers and their babies brought about drama and conflict, and Sandy, the house mother, tended to add to the drama. Having been on my own for 2 years as an adult, it was hard moving into a place where I was treated like a child. I didn't like these rules and I didn't fit in. I also didn't want to go back to high school. I didn't attend enough during the first year at the teen parent program to gain any credits. So I was still in the ninth grade and would be 20 years old before I graduated. High school seemed hopeless and a waste of time. I worked late nights and getting up at the crack of dawn to go to sit through class that I had no interest in was not high on my priority list. Things with Charlie were never ending war. He hassled me when he didn't have Leah and gave me a hard time at every turn. I felt like he was never going to leave me alone in peace. I started sleeping more and withdrawing socially. I struggled to get out of bed many days and wasn't in compliance with the rules in the house. The tension grew and I began to hate being there. The long summer faded into fall, along with hopes the teen parent home was going to work out for me. I lived in a dark hole and cried for no reason. Day after day, the darkness grew, and I felt like the sun had given up on me too. What's wrong with me? Why do I feel so bad? I want to get out of this bed. Leah's crying and she needs me, but I just can't. I can't do anything right. It's all just too much. Leah always needs something from me. I try so hard. I do everything I can, but I can barely take care of myself. I have nothing to give. I'm a terrible mother. Charlie's right. She deserves so much more than I can give her. I love her so much. Why, God? I pulled the covers over my head to draw out Leah's crying. If I stay here under the covers, maybe it'll all just go away. Maybe I can pretend I'm little again, that mom will come in my room soon and check on me and pamper me with her love and attention the way she did when I was sick. Maybe then I would feel better. I just want it all to go away. I'm so tired of hurting and trying to figure it out. Maybe if I wasn't here, everyone would be happy, especially Charlie. He will get what he wanted all along. There is no way out of this. There is just no way out. I crunched up the tissue I had in my fist and wiped my tears and my nose. Come here, baby. Get in bed with mommy. Shh, stop crying. No, mommy, let's get up. I want to play. I know. Mommy is just so tired. Let's just lay here for a few minutes, please. We can just snuggle. I pulled her close to me and hoped she would lie still for a few minutes. Maybe mom could help me. If she could take Leah for a little while until I get on my feet and get my own place, maybe then things would be better. The next day, I went to my mom and told her how I was feeling. I asked her if she would help me and take Leah for a little while until I got on my feet, feel better, and get my own place. Why do you want to leave that teen parent home, Angel? You can't be happy with nothing, can you? I got no time to take care of Leah. I got work, and if you can wait a couple more years, she'll be in school and things will get easier. You ought to be happy to be at that place. Now you made your bed. I try to tell you not to run after that boy, but you just wouldn't listen. You're hard headed. You don't listen to nothing. So now, Angel, you better listen to me. You need to stay at that teen parent house and do right. Okay, Mom, just forget about it. I will figure it out myself, I said in disappointment. I got my purse and walked out the door. Later, when I got back to the room, my inner critic showed up and started beating the shit out of me. What is wrong with me? Why can't I get it together? Why can't I be normal and do the right thing? I must get this idea out of my head. I have to try harder. Yet the feelings of hopelessness, overwhelm, and exhaustion fighting Charlie felt endless. I needed space to breathe without the responsibility, judgment, criticism, abuse, and hell I was going through week after week, dealing with Charlie and the turmoil that ensued over Leah. I felt like I was choking to death and stuck in an endless hell I couldn't escape. I just wanted to run away from it all. I lie awake at night thinking of how to get out of this hell I created for my life. Suicidal thoughts float in and out. It is all my fault. How could I be so stupid? It would just be easier if I wasn't here. My mother was right. I made this bed now. I need to lie in it. Nobody cares about me. Why did I get pregnant so young? Why did I listen to Charlie? Why? I had no idea what I was getting myself into. And I have just made a mess of my life. It would just be better for everyone if I disappeared. No, stop it, Angel. That's a terrible thing to do. I surely would end up in hell. I shook myself, trying to escape those terrible thoughts. What am I going to do? There has been there has to be a better answer. I cried, feeling hopeless as I lay and pondered and racked my brain, trying to think of a solution. Maybe I should just give in and let Leah live with her Dottie and Charlie. Maybe everyone would be happy then. That is all they wanted anyway. If I am gone, he will leave me alone. He just wants her. That is all I was good for to him. Maybe it was the best thing for Leah. Maybe it is the best thing for everyone. I can't imagine dealing with this for the next 15 years of her life. This is horrible for everyone. She deserved better than this. She wouldn't have to deal with me and Charlie fighting all the time. He will never give me any peace, ever. And they have so much more than I have to give her. Dottie and Mitch are retired, and they have more time and money to take better care of her. Surely she would be better off than with me. I'm such a mess. This is such a mess. Why, God, why did I get into this mess so young? I sobbed and sobbed. They will never give her back to me if I let her go. But I'm so tired of fighting. My thoughts were endless and rapid, and with each one I felt more destroyed and more certain. Would she hate me? She's almost 3. Would she even remember me? I sobbed. Will she understand that I can't fight this kind of crazy? It isn't healthy for her to see all this all the time. It is absolutely toxic. I will come back for her someday when things are better. Yeah, for sure I would. When I'm stronger, when my life is better, when I'm better to have more to offer her. Surely life has to be better for her than this. I packed up all of Leah's things neatly, putting love and care into every item, then placed them in the car. I pulled her close to me and hugged her very tight, kissing the top of her head. I opened the car door and she climbed into the front seat, bouncing and bubbly, excited to go for a ride. Leah was so bubbly, bright, and full of energy as we drove along. Her blonde curls bounced as we giggled around in her seat. Her blue eyes sparkled as we talked and laughed like we always did on our drives. It was like any other day, but it wasn't. We loved each other so much, and she was my little shadow. My heart hung heavy. A myriad of emotions assaulted me with each mile. Conflict, fear, doubt, shame, and uncertainty suspended densely in my heart and mind. I felt lost, alone, hopeless, desperate for relief, and this felt like the only answer. She had no idea of the destination. Neither of us knew the gravity or ramification that will follow the decision that this tattered 16-year-old single teen mother was about to make. Leah sat close to me and snuggled up next to me while I drove. When we arrived at our destination, I parked the car in front of the house. She cocked her little head sideways. Mommy, why are you crying? She asked in surprise. I pulled her in close to me and held her. I just love you so much, sweetie pie, I whispered through my tears. I love you too, Mommy, she said in a happy, reassuring voice, trying to cheer me up. She had no idea the gravity or impact of this moment and how it was going to change the trajectory of both our lives forever. I pulled away, just far enough to see her tender little face. You are going to live with Daddy and Grandma now. Mommy has to go far away for a little while, but I promise I will come back and get you someday. I hugged her tight, trying not to fall apart in front of her. Her brow furrowed as she looked at me in confusion as I wiped away my tears. Mommy, don't cry. She tenderly tried to console me, and I felt my heart fracture into a million tiny pieces. This hurts. Excuse me. I pulled her close as she laid her little head gently on my shoulder. I took a deep breath and sighed, trying to pull myself together. I took her in my arms, shifted her hip, and pulled the bag of all her belongings out of the car. As we walked up the steps to her paternal grandmother's house, they were anxiously waiting for my arrival. I am sure they thought I wasn't coming. I hugged Leah tight, kissing her neck, smelling her hair, and taking a deep breath. I handed her to her grandmother, Daddy. then walked away sobbing, leaving her motherless and both of us brokenhearted. Excuse me. That part is so sad, having to leave your baby behind. And that's the risk I take for reading online. Oh my goodness. That's heart wrenching. Can't even imagine. Whew. Thank you for joining, everyone. Sorry about that. It's an emotional story. I also cry in movies too. Excuse me. Oh man, that was the ending of chapter 19 where she left her baby. Now we're going to begin chapter 20. After a week of tears, guilt, sorrow, and hopelessness, I was driving around aimlessly for hours before work. I looked over and saw a sign for a palm reader. My desperation to find answers leaped inside of me. I immediately pulled in the parking lot of the little shop. The sign on the window read, "Palm or card readings, today, $5. I dug through my purse and found a $5 bill. My thoughts swirled as I envisioned and hoped and better days ahead. I yearned for things in my life to be better and not so painful and hard. I also hoped Leah would be okay and eventually we could be back together when things were better. The door screeched as I opened it. The shop billowed with the smell of smoke of incense burning as I stepped inside. There were shelves full of dusty books on tarot readings and the occult. Having been raised in a Christian home all my life, I felt a bit out of place, yet with an intuitive knowing that this was a divine appointment. A thin, blonde older woman reached her weathered hand to pull back the curtain from the small room that set off from the main lobby. "Good afternoon, young lady. How can I help you today?" I was hoping I could get a card reading. The sign outside said you're offering them today for $5. "Yes, we sure are. My name is Helen. Come on in. Let's see what we can find out for you." The warmth of her smile and the sparkle in her green eyes brought immediate comfort as she beckoned me into her space behind the curtain for my reading. She shuffled the cards. "What is it that you want to know?" As tears welled up in my eyes, I looked at her and asked, "Do you think anyone will ever love me?" She said, "Oh, honey, I am sure you will find love in your life. Whatever in the world has ever made you believe you're unlovable?" "Well, ma'am, I have been in a toxic relationship for the past 4 years that was pretty abusive. And he told me no one would ever love me and that I would never find anyone who would have me. And to be honest, I felt rejected by almost everyone. All my life. And I just feel alone." "I am ashamed to tell you, but I also recently gave up custody of my daughter. because I felt like it was the best thing for her. And well, for me too. Do you think she's going to be okay? I hope I can get my life together and things will turn out for me and for my daughter. I've been feeling hopeless and not sure how to go on. Excuse me. Just sad. She looked at me with compassion in her caring eyes. Oh, honey, I'm sorry. You have been through so much. I'm sure you will get through this. There is an amazing book you must read by Dr. Wayne Dyer called Your Erroneous Zone. I think this book will help you, and I suggest you seek out a counselor. I think you could benefit from some support. You're an incredible young woman. You are very mature and you have endured a lot in such a young age. It took a lot of strength to get through all of you have been through. You just need someone to help guide you. Your what zones? I asked. Erroneous zones. It just means errors. I will write the title down. I hope you pick it up. I know it will be helpful for you. Oh, yeah, of course I will, as soon as I leave here. She read my cards, but to be honest, I don't even remember what the reading revealed. My mind was fixed on this book she mentioned, and that was all I could think about. I paid the $5 and immediately went to the bookstore and used what little money I had left to buy the book. I couldn't wait to get off of work. I had the next 2 days off and had plenty of time to read. As soon as I got into bed after a long shift of waiting tables, I grabbed this book and ran my hand over the cover, got cozy, and began to read. I couldn't sit it down. Wayne's words of encouragement and stories of his life and how he had overcome so much brought me needed hope and inspiration to me. He had so many answers, advice, and hopeful ideas for working through life struggles and what he called neurotic thinking that I was experiencing every day of my life. Wayne grew up in Detroit, just like me, and had a hard life. He ended up in an orphanage and had many struggles throughout his early life. He got his education and overcame so many obstacles and went on to become a counselor and professor and a world renowned motivational speaker. I could relate to his story, and it touched and inspired me in profound ways. His story and the lessons he taught were exactly what I needed to shift out of the hopelessness hell I was living in. I sped through the book in those 2 days and got up from the reading in a different person. I immediately began making better choices and decisions. I started counseling, which was an instrumental in helping me to see my life wasn't over because I had made mistakes I had made or the heartaches I had been through. My counselor told me I could be anything I wanted to be if I would just make up my mind and do what it took to get there. No one ever told me that before. Between Wayne Dyer's book and this therapist, I felt empowered to rise above where I was and change my thinking. I started believing I could change my life like I wanted to. I could shift from being a victim to becoming victorious. I thought back to all those nights walking the 9 miles to work, knowing I wasn't going to stay stuck in a life that made me miserable. I had lost myself through this hell, and I was ready to find me, maybe for the first time in my life. I realized during those walks, if it wasn't going to be, it was up to me. I had to make my life what I wanted it to be. No one was coming to save me. I shifted my focus from pain and rejection to hope and encouragement. I was determined to get out of the poverty and the survival mode I had been in for years. I wanted to make a better life for myself. I was desperate for change, to feel better and to live again, and I was willing to do whatever it took to start feeling better. After that reading card, I quit school and left the teen parent home, grateful for what they offered me, but knowing that this was not the right option for me. I attempted to have visitations with Leah, but it was very difficult to work with Charlie. It didn't matter what I did, what I brought her, what I sent her. It was a put down, a ridicule, and used against me, and I was exhausted. I couldn't find the strength to put us both through the pain every week. I didn't understand it then, but I would learn later in life when I was doing some research that Charlie and his mom were doing by deintegrating me, putting me down, making Leah feel it wasn't okay to love or accept me or my gifts were psychological symptoms of emotional abuse called parental alienation. It occurs when a parent or family member manipulates the child to turn them against the other parent. It is very damaging to a child and their relationship with their other parent. At the time, I didn't know what to do and what was going on. It was so confusing and hurtful. I could just see how destructive it was and felt we both would be better off if I just went away. I thought about Leah all the time and hoped that someday in the future, when things were better in my life, I could come back and try again. I shifted my focus and started going to the library after work and studied for my GED. I was determined to get my education. Through reading Wayne's book and using the tools he taught me about standing up for myself and being assertive rather than passive or aggressive, I learned to say no. I learned to ask for what I wanted and saw how doing this got much better results and saved me, which helped build my confidence and self esteem. I had dated a few guys after Charlie, but didn't treat me the way I deserved and took advantage of me. After reading your erroneous zones, I made up my mind that I'd rather be alone than put up with anybody abusing me, running around on me, and treating me with disrespect. I learned I deserved more than that. Right after the reading, right after the card reading, I ran into Tom. He was my cousin's best friend and someone I had casually known since I was 7 years old. He had just graduated from high school and was getting ready to go to the U.S. Marine Corps. We were at a party at my aunt's house and I was drinking, and my aunt asked him to drive me home. He he dated my cousin Stephanie when I was in high school, and to make conversation during the ride, I asked him if he thought that they would get back together. He replied, "Oh no, I met a girl named Lisa and we're engaged." "Oh, that's nice. Are you excited about going to the Marine Corps?" "Oh yeah, I leave in a couple of weeks." We chatted about him going to the Marine Corps, and I told him my sister had joined the US Army Reserves. I had thought about going into service myself, but I didn't know if that was the right path for me. He dropped me off, and I thanked him for the ride. 3 months later, I was staying for a few weeks with my cousin Louise while I was waiting for the apartment I rented to come available after leaving the teen parent home. I was working on myself through counseling and integrating the lessons I had learned from the Wayne Dyer's book, Erroneous Zones, and beginning to find my inner strength. It was new for me and would take some time to cultivate, but I was learning to stand up for myself, and I was becoming more certain of what I wanted in my life and what I knew I would no longer tolerate. One evening, while I was staying with her, Tom called. "Hey, Angel, how are you?" "Really good, thank you." "Is Stephanie in?" "No, she's out on the evening." "Can I give her a message?" "Well, no. I'm at a party at your Uncle Junior's for your cousin's Dallas. 16th birthday. I'm leaving to go back to the Marines tomorrow. I was just checking to see if she wanted to hang out. What are you doing this evening? Well, I'm meeting with my pastor and some people from church for dessert, but after that I'm free. Well, hey, why don't you come out and hang out with us? Okay, tomorrow is Louisa's 40th birthday. I think she'd like to come too. Oh, yeah, she just nodded yes to me. Well, we'll be out in a little bit. I heard he had broken up with his fiancee, Lisa, while he was in boot camp. I wonder how things were going for him and thought it would be nice to catch up. As soon as I arrived, several guys at the party were trying to talk to me. Hey, do you know if Tom is still here? I asked. Oh, you don't want that guy. He's leaving tomorrow to go back to California. I smiled, looked around the room for Tom, and was surprised when I saw him coming to rescue me from the sea of men that surrounded me. He looked nothing like before, just a few months earlier. His body was chiseled and sharp, and he was wearing a tight black Marine Corps t shirt. His long brown hair was shaved close to his head, and he looked like a completely different person from the guy who drove me home the night at the party a few months ago. I was stunned and enamored. I thought about how much he had physically changed and reflected on my own internal transformation, and I smiled. My intentions were to hang out as friends. He smiled immediately and took me by the hand and led me away. We spent the whole evening together. We hung out all night and talked for hours. That night was like a breath of fresh air at a time in my life after having gone through so much over the past few years. It felt good to talk to someone who just seemed to get me and was interested in what I had to say. It felt so natural, and we connected on a deep level in a way that I never expected it. We reminisced about the first time we met when I was 7 years old and was visiting my Aunt Jackie during a family trip. He was hanging out with my cousin Dean and his best friend in the yard when I came out of the house with a jaw full of bubblegum. They were a couple of years older than me and were egging me on to go over and put the bubblegum on the door handle of Dean's neighbor's brand new truck. I loved all the attention from the older kids. It wasn't long before they talked me into it, and I went over and smeared the bubblegum all over the handle and the door, and it caused quite a commotion when the owner of the truck saw what I was doing and ran out, ready to beat my ass. The excitement I felt to please the other kids only moments before turned into immediate fear. A few minutes later, my mom, Aunt Jackie, and the whole house full of relatives ran out in my defense, and a whole scene ensued. I knew then, Angel, you were someone I wanted to keep my eye on, Tom chuckled. We laughed about old times and talked about his military experience, which was fascinating to me. What made you decide to go into the Marines? I asked. He laughed. Well, I was going down the wrong road. I had been partying, smoking pot, drinking nearly every day, and rarely going to school, throwing raging parties at my house while my mom was at work. My three older brothers, who were all married, would step in when things weren't going well at home after my dad died when I was 7. My mom called them, worried about me, and they came over one day and told me I needed to get my shit together. I was in the 12th grade and a few months before graduation, and I was flunking out. A few days later, I came home from school and found a for sale sign in the yard. I asked my mom where what she was going on. She said, "We're moving and you're not invited." A few days later at school, two Marine sergeants, decked out in dress blues, came into the presentation to recruit students into the Marine Corps. I knew I was at the place in my life where I had to make some hard decisions. My older brother Bill went into the Marines during Vietnam, and I felt a connection to the Corps, and I knew I wasn't in a desperate situation. I told them my situation with school, and they talked to the principal and told them I had to graduate in order to get in. The principal made a deal with me. If I didn't miss any more school and completed my assignments, he would make sure I graduated and joined the Marines that day. Wow, that's an incredible story. I connected with Tom immediately, knowing he had been through a lot in his life too, and took care of his mom, helped with the household and his younger sister, like I did for my mom and younger brother, Jake. And I could relate to my mom moving and not being invited. We stayed out until 4 a.m. until the last possible moment when he had to leave so he could catch his plane back to California in just a few hours. He asked for my phone number and address. I don't have an apartment yet, but I can give you my mom's address so you can write to me there. I doubt he would ever call her right, but I appreciated the thought. I felt a bit guilty returning to Louise's and wondered what Stephanie would say. She and Tom had been broken up for years, and she had just started seeing someone new. I felt embarrassed because Tom and I had made out passionately, and he put hickeys on my neck, and I had to face her. But the connection we made was so powerful that the guilt I felt soon faded. Within a week, I got a letter from Tom, and he said he couldn't stop thinking about me and wanted to see me again. He said he couldn't wait 6 months until he got leave again, and he wanted to know if I was available next weekend. He had a long weekend break, and even though he wasn't supposed to go more than 100 miles from Camp Pendleton in California, he wanted to fly home to see me again. I had just moved into my new apartment, and I told him I would love to see him. We had an incredible weekend. We fell in love hard and fast. It was as if the stars and planets in the universe aligned in our favor. And within 6 months or 6 weeks of his visit, we started talking about getting married. I knew this was moving fast, but deep within my soul, I knew he was right for me instantly. I told him if he married if he married me, there would be a few things he needed to know. Excuse me. First, I don't want any more children. I know you are young and this may be a deal breaker, but I have been through so much with Leah and Charlie. I don't think I can ever go through anything like that again. Also, I will never put up with a man mistreating me, abusing me, or running around on me. Well, I haven't ever wanted children either, and I would never hurt you. I love you too much. We were obsessed with each other. He called me every chance he got, and I wrote to him nearly every day, and he wrote back religiously. I couldn't wait to see him again. 6 weeks later, I sold all the furniture in my apartment I just bought and used the money to fly out to San Diego to see him in April. He came home on leave in July, and in December of 1986, just before he was to leave to go overseas with the Navy for 6 months, after only seeing each other face to face a few times, we got married. After getting married, my relationship with my mom got better. Ben was still an asshole not long after I returned from California. My mom ended the relationship. Through working on my own healing and studying the work of Wayne Dyer, I began to learn the value of forgiveness. In Dyer's book, You See It When You Believe It, he wrote a whole chapter on forgiveness, teaching that forgiveness is an act of self love. He taught holding on to unforgiveness only causes pain to the person holding it. While the other person is outliving their life, he emphasizes that forgiveness doesn't condone the harmful behavior but frees oneself from resentment. That made a lot of sense to me. I knew in my heart that my mom loved me and always did the best she knew to do at the time. I also recognized that she was too wounded and made many decisions out of pain and survival. I knew she didn't mean to hurt me intentionally, and I loved her. I was able to forgive her, and we were able to build a better relationship and become closer throughout my adult years. While Tom was overseas, I worked hard and saved as much as possible for our new life together. Tom was stationed in Camp Pendleton in California near San Diego for his 4 year enlistment with two overseas tours with the US Navy every 2 years. After his first overseas deployment, I planned to move to California when he returned. Moving away and being married was a fresh start and a new beginning for both of us. I had grown so much after leaving Charlie. Through counseling and reading self-help books, I gained confidence and was ready to create a better life for myself. When I got to California, I took my GED. Immediately afterwards, I started classes at a technical school for dental assisting and graduated at the top of my class. While attending school, I worked at a cleaning company and learned everything I could about how to build a cleaning business. Tom and I loved each other so much and built a wonderful relationship while we were in California. We both changed a lot, being away from our families and the only life we had known back home. Being away gave us the chance to find and discover ourselves without the outside pressure and influence of anyone. After Tom finished his 4 year contract of the Marine Corps, we returned to Michigan. I had big dreams and lofty goals of creating a financially secure life. I was a constant learner and hungry for knowledge that would help me catapult me into the life of my wildest dreams. I read all the time and listened to audio cassettes in my car on the way to and from work. I read Norman Vincent Peale's The Power of Positive Thinking, Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, James Allen's As a Man Thinketh, David Schwartz, The Magic of Thinking Big, Tony Robbins, Awakening the Giant Within, and Shakti Gawain's Creative Visualization. I listened to Earl's Nightingale, Lead the Field, and Brian Tracy's The Psychology of Achievement, and many other high achievers on cassette tape. I sat down at 20 years old and wrote out a list of goals that I wanted to achieve in my life. I allowed my imagination to run wild and didn't hold back on any possibility. I learned from these masters that anything I could believe and conceive, I could achieve. I believe I was financially independent. I would be happy and all of my dreams would come true. I had this knowing and intuition that was within me always. It helped me survive the dark nights walking through the tough streets of Detroit when I was a young girl. I knew in my heart and soul I could do anything I set my mind to if I was willing and determined to do whatever it took to achieve it. I also knew if someone else had achieved the goal, I could achieve it too. I just needed to do what they had done. While I was working as a dental assistant, I started my own cleaning business at 20. I began cleaning houses, but before long, I expanded into cleaning office buildings and banks. Soon, I converted my business into a commercial cleaning service. This allowed me to work my regular job during the day and clean at night. Tom and I were great partners, and we would work well together as a team. He helped me build the cleaning business, and we would work together at night we got from our day jobs. Sometimes we were so exhausted, we would sleep in our car to get enough energy to finish cleaning all the buildings before we had to return work the next morning. The first house we lived in was in Wayne, Michigan, a suburb of Detroit. It was a rental and belonged to one of my brother's in law's best friends, Alex. It was a rundown house that was dated and needed some TLC. I asked Alex if we could use some of our rent money to paint the house and to put some new carpeting and fix it up a bit. He agreed, and Tom and I did the work to get it painted and refurbished, and it turned out beautiful. It was our first experience remodeling a house, and it was very rewarding. Stunning how we could take something so battered, worn down, and completely transform it in a little bit with a little bit of hard work and money. When Alex saw our work, he couldn't believe the transformation and was stunned and impressed to how ambitious we were. He offered to sell us the house, and we bought our first home when we were in our early 20s. The transformation of this house intrigued me, and I started researching and learned about real estate investing. I found a book by Russ Whitney called Building Wealth from Rags to Riches in Real Estate and learned how to flip houses. Tom and I had a house in our neighborhood that was in foreclosure. We bought it with a friend and renovated it. Within a few months of hard work, we made 24,000 that we split among us. I had long thought about this as a viable business from the time I was a young kid and saw our neighbors across the street renting their house. I also thought about it again when I was 14 years old, living with Charlie in the upper flat. I told him my vision of buying a property like the one we lived in, renting the upper flat, and living in the lower one. I thought it was an excellent business idea, but Charlie shot me down and told me I was a stupid and a dreamer. But here I was, less than 10 years later, making my dreams come true. Not only did I own my first house at the age of 20, but within the next year, I had also bought and renovated and sold my first house and made more money in a few weeks than people I knew at that time made in a whole year. I was excited and very motivated. While I was working as a dental assistant and cleaning commercial businesses at night, I decided to go to college. I knew in order to accomplish such lofty goals, I needed to get a better education as a dental assistant. I saw the dental hygienist in our office made 3 times as much as me and had a lot more autonomy than I did. So I set my sights on attaining that goal. Since I only had a GED, I went to the local community college for a year, then applied to the University of Michigan for their dental hygiene program. I wasn't sure if I would get in, but I thought it doesn't hurt to apply. If I don't get in, they have a program at the community college where I'm taking classes and I can go there. I had a 4.0 GPA when I applied to the University of Michigan, and I wrote a letter with my application explaining why I didn't go to high school and all that I had accomplished since getting my GED. They only accepted 28 to 30 students per year out of many applications. I knew U of M was a prestigious school, so my chances of getting in with my background were probably slim. But I learned through studying high achievers that you only fail if you don't try. So I polished up my letter and sent it in with my application. Within a few weeks, I got a personal call from the director of the dental hygiene program at the University of Michigan, letting me know that I was accepted into the program as an alternate. She told me my application had come in at the end of their selection process and they had already accepted all of the students for their 1993 incoming class. But they were so impressed with my application and my accomplishments, they were accepting me as a backup. And if someone decided not to attend, I would be accepted for their fall class. She said she would let me know by the beginning of August. She also told me if it didn't work out for this year, I was accepted for the following year of 1994. I was ecstatic. I couldn't believe it. Wow, what are the chances of me, a high school dropout, pregnant at 13, a teen mother at 14, and the only person in my family to go to college being accepted to such a prestigious school? Unspeakable joy filled me as tears flowed down my cheeks. Within 2 weeks, the director called me back to let me know that someone had decided not to attend the incoming class, and I was officially accepted to the University of Michigan's dental hygiene program, and classes would be starting in a few weeks. Another dream coming true. From reading Russ Whitney's, I learned about mailbox money. Mailbox money is money that comes in the mail without you having to work for it. Russ amasses his wealth through real estate investing and rental properties. He went from working in a slaughterhouse at age 12 to being a multimillionaire at the age of 27. I decided that this is exactly what I wanted to do. There was a lady at our church who traveled whenever she wanted to. She drove a beautiful Cadillac and seemed to have plenty of money. She told me she had a mobile home park in Arizona and it was very lucrative investment. I liked her lifestyle and decided I would begin looking into investing in a mobile home park when I saved enough money. While I was at the University of Michigan, I left the dental assistant job but continued the cleaning business, which continued to grow. Tom worked as a purchasing manager at an office supply distributing center, and I went to school during the day and we continued to clean at night. By the time I graduated from dental hygiene school, we had made enough money to sell our first home and have our dream home built near the University of Michigan in a brand new subdivision in Saline. We began pursuing our dream of buying a mobile home park. We looked at the Detroit area, but the pricing was too expensive. My two brothers, Jake and David, lived in Christiansburg, Virginia area, where Tom and I had gotten married 11 years earlier, and we started looking at real estate in that area and found it to be much more affordable. I could see that the area was up and coming college town. So within a year of graduating from the University of Michigan and right after turning 28 years old, I took the money we had saved over the years from the cleaning business and real estate deals, and we bought a 26 unit home, mobile home park on 11 acres near Christiansburg in Shawsville, Virginia. Nearly 2 years later, in 1998, we decided to move to Virginia and the warm weather to be closer to our investments. That concludes chapter 20. We're going to pick up 21 tomorrow. I'm going to stop the reading because that was pretty heavy. Thank you. Start 21 tomorrow.